Alright everyone, so let's do part 4 of the fig tour. And in part 1 we had skipped over a section of part 1. Unfortunate that the video just didn't capture everything I filmed, but I think we left off at RDB, which is Ronde de Bordeaux. And then we can begin here right next to that at Cendrosa. And Cendrosa is a new fig that's coming to the United States that I think it's going to be quite popular. I don't know a whole lot about it, but the pictures I've seen of it, it looks incredible. It is common. We do know that. It just looks like a really tasty fruit. A friend of mine says it's on the later side, but so far I have to disagree because it's doing quite well. Behind it and in the same container, you know, following along with the multiple trees in the same container style of planting here, we have Fico Roboto, and this is a really special Italian variety that my friend Sergio has spread around the United States. Here's the leaf structure here, and you know, it's doing okay. It could be doing better, but we have an air layer on it to give to a friend in a trade for Galicia Black, UC Davis. So hopefully he comes through, and this air layer, if he doesn't come through, it's going to be a second tree of this one because I have a feeling it's going to be that good. Next to that is 2 Franken Figs, and this one is it's being bud grafted here, but the top we had a cleft graft on here of a Greek variety called Livano, and it's been rainy here, it's been windy here, and the wind and the rain just knocked it off. Unfortunate, but you know, it's like a haircut, guys. You cut it back, but I'm sure I can regraft something onto this top here, and it'll all be all right. You know, it'll regrow. Here we have another Franken fig of 4 Italian varieties. We have, let's see, this is Pendolino Rosso, doing quite well. These are all really ancient Italian varieties as well. Here is Bozzone Nero. We have Leopoldo Abruzzo here from my friend Nikki, and then we have Verdone. And Verdone is not the typical Verdone that we have in the United States that we see a lot. You know, that one's it's a large fig, the one we have commonly found in the United States. This one is more slender, and it's really ancient. So interested to see what that one turns out to be, because I'm not a huge fan of the Verdone that we have in the U.S. So this down here is St. Martin, and St. Martin is a fig again from Italy, grown from a guy named Vladimir Roca, and he says this is hardy to like insane cold temperatures. So pretty cool that if it is that hardy, you know, maybe one day I can put this one in the ground. We also have in the same container, we have Coldedon Blanca Negra and Galicia Negra. These two are doing quite well, I guess. They're adjusting to the new container here. It's about 15 to 20 gallons here. The Galicia Negra is a black mission type. I know there's a bit of debate about this, but this is definitely a black mission leaf. The fruit looks like a lot like a black mission, but the inside is way darker and usually purple. So that's really cool that there is a genetic mutation out there that really dramatically changed the interior color of the fruit. So yes, there are many black mission types out there, as there are many hardy Chicago types out there, but there is some genetic diversity, and I think Galicia Negra may be the most obvious. You can see down here we grafted it last year. I even got an air layer off of this one from the graft last year. And then this is the Coldedon Blanca Negra, and this is another mutation of a Coldedon fig that produces black and white figs on the same branch. Isn't that cool? So a bit of a novelty. You know, there's many different mutations we talked about, whether it's a mule fig like the Dal Osso or a ramada like Panache. You know, this is another type of mutation that can happen on figs. This over here is black Sadar. We're probably at 2.5, 3 feet tall right now. just put it into this larger container, and last year it was in a 5-gallon and it did really well. I got it from my friend Vito early in the season at Bass's fig gathering last year, and that thing took off. It put out figs. I even air layered it. This year it's struggling because of how what happened in the greenhouse this year. A lot of trees got set back. A lot of them I killed. This is a Blanche de Douce Saison, and it's another Adriatic type fig, and you can see up here there is a fig, so that will ripen for me by the end of the year. We'll get to compare that to other Adriatic types like Strawberry Verte and Green Ischia and Verte, and all kinds. There's so many of them. JH Adriatic I have in the ground I'm about to show you guys. Here is, what is this guy? This is Sakura Black, and my Sakura Black, a friend wanted to buy one off me, so I said, all right, I'll do it, but I didn't want to because the tree, I really wanted this thing to grow because it's actually doing quite well. It's on the brown turkey rootstock that I originally had my Smith on. If you guys recall, I had Smith grafted onto brown turkey, and then on brown turkey we air layered off the brown turkey rootstock with the Smith, and then planted that over here in a separate container. We did a whole video on that. Here's my Smith tree, guys. This is grafted. You can see that here's the mark where the original cleft graft was done. Here, actually, believe it, years later is the oil pen that says Smith. So we grafted it here, and then down here, that's the brown turkey rootstock, and it's now this. So what we did with that stump, that leftover brown turkey rootstock stump, is that we grafted Sakura Black onto it, and this is what it looks like today. It's quite vigorous because of that. It's got a lot of figs on it. The last tree in the greenhouse to wake up, so it really didn't get a head start at all, but it's got figs on it with no problem. So I'm interested to see how that one does with the rain. And then we have Lsu Scots Black behind that. Lsu Scots Black, a Louisiana bred fig, Louisiana State University bred fig, and Lsu Scots Black was my largest tree last year. It really was. It was huge. We partially buried a lot of figs in this bed. If you guys recall, I did a whole video on how I was burying my fig trees, and it didn't really work out for a few reasons. I'm not too big of a fan of it anymore. But the greenhouse really knocked this tree back, and it's making a comeback now, but it has no fruit on it for the size. It's quite astounding. And then behind it is Lsu Red, and that one has about 6 figs on it. That tree is massive, and it is really doing well, even though it got knocked back in the greenhouse. So I guess that's the end of the first part, really, but let's go on now to the other section and what I had intended to be part 4 of the tour. So over here is a planting. I had planted a couple fig trees in the ground this fall, so they've only been in the ground for not even a year now. And this is my Hardy Chicago, and Hardy Chicago is very hardy, and it came through the wintertime with no damage whatsoever. So that's really awesome, and that's why it looks like this. That's why it has the growth that it has and the amount of figs that it has. I really shouldn't have let that thing fruit, but over time these guys will get bigger and bigger. It's no problem. Here's my Maltese Falcon, so you can see the comparison, how this one's way smaller than the Hardy Chicago. Hardy Chicago has figs, Maltese Falcon does not. Maltese Falcon is, by the way, a black mission type, like Galicia Negra. And then over here is my JH Adriatic, which looks even worse. So yeah, I mean, they both got knocked back pretty hard by the cold, and I'm just lucky they're alive, to be honest with you. Really not a good idea to plant things in the fall, but Hardy Chicago came out all right. Over here is my butterfly bush that my parents planted years ago. Quite a long time ago. I mean, maybe 10 years it's been. And there's always butterflies on this tree, or on this bush. You can see them right on in there doing their thing. They really are all over this thing, and there's many types of them. They love this. So do the bees. I mean, it's not just butterflies, but the butterflies do love this for whatever reason. Anyway, they had taken a chainsaw to this and pruned this so improperly that we had to take the whole thing down and restart from new. So that's what I've done, is that I selected a couple canes that came up from the base, and now it's getting a nice form to it. But because we took it down, there was a nice little open space over here, and I decided to plant the most dwarfed fig tree that I know of. This is called Little Ruby. And Little Ruby is a tissue cultured fig, and the thing just grows sideways, guys. It really does have these limbs that grow almost horizontal to the ground. So you can see one here, that's like on a 15-degree angle off the ground. So that's pretty cool how this is so dwarfed, and I want to really examine this variety carefully, because it may be a really good choice for rootstock in containers. This would potentially eliminate the need to root prune, I would think, but the fruit is very similar to a hardy Chicago. In fact, the leaves look just like a hardy Chicago. Now that the tree is getting older, I've had this tree for actually 3 years now. It's one of my older trees, and it always fruits pretty well. It's quite early, and I think what this is really is just a tissue cultured hardy Chicago. That's what I honestly believe what this is. They took hardy Chicago, tissue cultured it, and renamed it. Whoever AgriStarts or whoever it is that donated that to them. So another tree that I'm hoping to get through the winter, because if that's hardy Chicago, then that would be a really good choice for in ground. So that's why I have it, with the rocks over there. All that rocks add lots of heat. Plus we got the afternoon sun hitting it, and then this wall is a nice added source of protection and source of heat. So then this fig is another experiment, where we put this one in a raised bed. It's 2 feet high off the ground. Chances are this one's going to die. Even though this is Teramo Unknown, which is supposed to be very hardy. They found this one in Maryland. My friend Bill found this one in Maryland. And it does really well there. But even though that's the case, I just think it's probably not going to survive in a raised bed, because a raised bed is essentially a container, right? Except the sides are made out of wood and not plastic. So, if you were to leave one of your container plants outside all wintertime, it would not survive. The roots need to be kept above 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wood needs to be kept above, and probably on this tree, 0 to 5 degrees. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think because this is such a well-draining system, and that we have lots of heat added in from the raised section, this is pretty warm soil, if I had to guess. All that combined together may make this tree hardy enough to survive the winter in a raised bed, but who knows? It's very hopeful. So I actually put an air layer on the bottom here in case it probably dies. So we'll have a tree as a backup just in case. And then on the other side, by the raspberries and the blackberries, we also have the mulberry here, which is the relative of the fig, very close relative. You can see there's blackberries in here, guys. And here's one that I'm gonna pick. The birds usually get all of these, but you can see, it's really good. You can see the leaf structure. That was really good. Very similar to a fig, guys. And if you were to break the ranch, it would also have sap in it. Very vigorous, more vigorous than the fig. Got some of the neighbor's trash in here. But yeah, these are some just trees we took out of the greenhouse and didn't really have a place for them. So I decided to stick them over here. And this side of the property only gets afternoon sun. We get maybe 5 to 7 hours depending on the time of the year in this location. Right now we probably get about 7. So It's not exactly 8, but it's pretty close, and they all seem to be doing quite well. This here is DN Peregrine, and this here is De La Roca, and this is Verdal Negra. All three of those are Pons varieties, Montserrat Pons in Spain, as we talked about. DN Peregrine is his longest season fig in that it ripens its figs over a longer period of time than any other fig. I think he gets them till frost. It's just a continuous everbearing type. This may be the only true everbearing type. Anyway, this one should have figs on it this year, but it almost died. I almost lost it. Verdal Negra is the same thing as Verdal, but it's black, is what Pons says. And it seems to be quite productive. If you can see that in there. We grafted this onto some kind of hardy Chicago, and it's taken a while to get going because we air layered it off. But hey, it's not doing too bad now. We also have De La Roca, which I think is going to be a real tasty fig. We got lots of figs up here, ready to be eaten. Probably in the next month and a half, so probably 30 to 45 days from now, I would expect this one to be ripe. The word's out on this one so far, but I had one last year that was really, really good. I was very impressed by the flavor, even though it ripened for me in like October. This here is Easton Purple, and I have just recently discovered, because I was looking at it, it looked a lot like LSU Tiger. You can tell by the leaves. They get these scrunched up leaves in here. And they also have massive leaves, usually 1 to 3 lobes. And the guy who found this, his name's Brent, he is the one that actually believes this is the same thing as LSU Tiger, and I didn't know that at the time, but I certainly agree with him. It's definitely LSU Tiger. So, another LSU Tiger, guys. I have 4 of them. 3 in 5 gallons and 1 in a 30 gallon. But it's not a bad fig to have. I mean, this is one of the more impressive varieties for this climate. Down here we have a dead Flanders. Upsetting, but I did want to really try that fig and evaluate it. This guy here is Col de Dame Noir. And Col de Dame Noir, like the other Col de Dame figs, take a long time to ripen. They need to mature. I could pinch this right now and it would fruit, but it's too late in the season now. And this one I think got knocked back a little bit in the greenhouse. Didn't really enjoy it in there. This guy, this is a fig I got from Harvey at Figaholics. We got this fig last year, and we grafted it onto Little Miss Figgy. Maybe you can see the graft down in here. It went in right here, I think. So oddly shaped how this has worked out, but staking it up has made it no problem. And this to me looks a lot like a brown turkey. I'm not sure what kind of brown turkey. The leaf structure, the fruit right now looks a lot like a brown turkey. You can tell this is going to be a big fig. It seems quite productive. So, in my mind, it seems somewhat vigorous too. In my mind, this is probably brown turkey. I've looked at Harvey's photos recently, and his photos look like brown turkey. So, I don't want to jump ahead. This may be like an improved brown turkey, but if it's called Morocco Alter 23, strange that this would be brown turkey, but so far it certainly looks like it. It could be an English brown turkey as well. The leaves match an English brown turkey. Who knows? But it'll definitely ripen fruit. Back here it seems to be a nice winner. It's a high quality fig. This is called Red Libya. And Red Libya, guys, is a fig that no one ever really talks about. But I ended up getting one. And I grafted this last year onto something. I don't remember what it was, but you can see the graft down here. Not a very strong graft. I will admit that. So we'll see what happens to this variety if maybe one day it breaks. But it's got a lot of fruit on it, and I'm happy to see that, because this variety is not talked about enough, and it would be really great to get a solid opinion on this year. Here's a second Cavalieri tree that I have. So I have two of them, one in a 10-gallon and one in this 5-gallon size here. This one looks like it's fruiting right now as I pinched it, but it's too late now. So I'll probably take off a lot of these fruits that are forming and let it grow this year. And then right here, this is Green Ishia UC Davis. PA Figs, my friend Nick, he really likes this one. Another Adriatic type. And you can see there's 2 figs on it, so we'll get to try it and we'll get to see if this is really better. You know, I really like to compare the Adriatic types to each other. I like to compare the Hardy Chicago types to each other. I like to compare the Black Mission types to each other. So this one is no exception. And then right here, this is Sucrete or Sucrete from Baud. I'm not sure on the pronunciation of the name. But this is the real deal, guys. This is the good one that you want. There's a couple of them out there. You can see there's some scale right in here. We'll take that off. They like to hide in these like crevices. It's not good, but you know, I should do like a check for scale every once in a while. Just come in throughout all my trees and give them a nice check. But this thing's doing all right. It seemed to have a rough time in the greenhouse, but it's fruiting for me. And this is the one I think that it should have a blood red interior. So we're gonna find out if that's 100% true. But this one in the back may be the most interesting fig I have, at least story-wise. This is a Clare fig called Black Portuguese, and I don't know how they got this fig. Clare Nursery, I don't know what the story is. I guess you could read their notes on it, but no one really has it. My friend Peter Kandari, who I met and become good friends with at Staten Island Fig Festival, he gave me cuttings of this tree. I was curious about it. I think he was selling cuttings or something, or I saw info on it somewhere and I asked him about it or something like that, and he told me basically he's getting rid of his tree. He's getting rid of his Black Portuguese. He wants to continue growing it, but his tree's so old and he needs to renew the process. He needs to start over again. So he decided he's going to give me the rest of his cuttings. He had no more. He told me it was very difficult to root, so I decided to graft it. And I grafted one for myself, as you saw over there, and I grafted one for him. And then back at Staten Island the following year, I gave him his own Black Portuguese tree back to him. And now me and him both have it, and I'm not going to get any fruit off of it this year. I doubt he will either, but it'll be real nice to get that fig around, you know, the various people in the community and continue on the legacy of that fig, because I think we almost lost it. So pretty cool, right? Anyway, guys, that is part 4 of the tour. That ends all of it. I should have showed you almost every variety I have. I'm sure there's a few more that I could go on and on and on about, but maybe at some point each one of these varieties will get their own little review if I really think they're a standout. So otherwise, I'll talk to you all later, and thank you for watching. You can follow me on Instagram, you can follow me on Facebook, and now Twitter. So if you guys want some different content, I like to post different things on there, not just here on Facebook as I've been doing. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. It's starting to rain out here, and I'll see you later. All right, take care.